I'll tell you right now, if you're not showing up for her every day, hey, how can I be present with you? What do you need from me? Intentional every day in your relationship, there could be a deficit. Welcome, my name is Jessica Lewis. I'm the founder of Rise Up Queens, where I help women step into the freedom that Christ died for. Here on this channel, you will find many topics on physical intimacy, porn and working through that in your marriage, communication, triggers, and so much more. I hope you dive in with me and subscribe and create the best marriage you possibly can with your spouse right now. So in this video, I'm gonna give men a little insight into us ladies. And so if you're watching this, ladies, definitely watch it and then share it with your husband and maybe change anything that's not you. And if you're a man watching this, I want you to listen closely and see how this applies to your wife. And so I want to help men understand women because we are so different. So a couple points. Oftentimes for intimacy, women need emotional connection before they want sexual connection. So that's kind of point number one. Point number two is that women often need to externalize their feelings. So they have lots more words than you do, men. And so that's something you have to adjust to sometimes because you want bullet points sometime and your wife might need to say stuff out loud. Another thing, number three, is getting ahead of comments like, I'm so fat, or you don't love me, or just anything where they're down on themselves. I'm not good about this. And you say, but you are. And then that doesn't solve the problem. I want to give you a tip into that. Number four, women are like this. Men are like this. We are just designed different by the Lord. I mean, hormones are real, you guys. Number five, if your wife's a stay-at-home mom, she's gonna need interaction from you. More on that. And number six, when she says, how was your day? Good is not enough, okay? Okay, so number one, emotional intimacy and safety. So for women, most of the time, and sometimes it's from abuse, it's from inappropriate stuff, it's from sin. Your wife's body sometimes doesn't feel safe. And so she will hold that from you, especially if she doesn't feel everyday safe, meaning emotionally safe. So if she doesn't feel safe in the everyday with you, meaning you blow up at her, you get angry, you don't hear her, you don't make it a safe space for her to be who she is, you want to change her, you want her to do it your way, you're kind of a bully, you're an overachiever, and she's just different than you, you will create an environment, men, where she doesn't feel safe. And oftentimes that will lead to shut down intimacy. And so if you do that stuff and you have okay intimacy now, I want you to imagine how much greater it could be if you showed up for your wife in the everyday and made her feel safe. So if you're watching this, I would ask her, so take a note, I would ask her, what does she need to feel safe from you? Or what are the ways that she begins to shut down in her interactions with you? How do you not make her feel seen and heard? What does she need from you? So a great way to bridge this conversation is, hey, I just realized from Jessica's video, I might be missing it with you. And there's ways that I could show up for you that maybe up until now I've just been unknowingly not doing or unwilling to do. But I'd love to rectify that. How can I show up for you in a greater way? And I'll tell you right now, if you're not showing up for her every day, hey, how can I be present with you? What do you need from me? Intentional every day in your relationship, there could be a deficit. And even if you are showing up every day, you might be missing it because some guys go through the motions and say, all right, I showed up, and they do the same thing over and over, but that's not your wife's love language. And you just miss it and you don't get points for all the stuff that you did, right? So there's times when Skylar will start doing the dishes and acts of service really isn't my love language. And so there's no added value. He thinks he's showing up for me, but there's no added value for me when he does that versus if he were to come and sit down and hold me for a second and talk to me, right? And so you might think you're showing up and you might be showing up the way you would want your wife to show up for you, but that's not going to get the connection that you desire. So if you're willing to, humbly, you could go and say, hey, how could I be missing it with you? Or how could I be not showing up in the way that you need me to? And you don't have to tell me later, but I guarantee consistently if you show up, she'll be willing to open up intimately. So externalizing our feelings. In some of our events, I've had men say to me, why does she have so many words? She just wants to talk for 30 minutes when I get home, right? And yes, that might be true. She might want to talk to you. And what does that say underneath? What that says to me underneath is that she's still choosing you. So that's a need of hers. She might need to talk and externalize things and say things out loud. And I want you to remember that feelings are not always real. In the beginning of our relationship, Skylar would resist any feelings that didn't feel good to him, like anger, sadness, frustration, all that. He would bring in resistance. But when he would bring resistance into my feelings, I would leave the conversation feeling unheard and unseen. And so can you let your wife say feelings out loud and you not attach onto all of them and let her have them? Because what I know to be true is when I'm allowed to say things out loud and Skylar just lets me say it, I feel much better afterwards and I don't want to hold on to them. But if he resists what I'm saying, I want to hold on to them and I don't want to let them go. And then I want to talk about them again. And it just like perpetuates this process that you guys could be done with if you would just let her share and not resist it in the first place. So I talk at Rise Up Queens, which is the events I run for women, about body image and our relationship with our bodies. And I've talked to the husbands of these wives and they feel so stuck because their wife will say something like, I'm fat, or I'm not pretty, or whatever the case may be. And then the husband will say, yes, you are. You're so great. I love you so much. You're beautiful. And then that doesn't solve the problem because the wife is like, no, I'm not. And the husband feels like, what am I supposed to do? Because she says this stuff, I see it differently, but it doesn't change. And we continue to have to go through this same thing over and over again. And so what I would challenge you to do, if this is your wife and she talks negatively about herself out loud, is when she's not triggered, you speak into these areas. You tell her how beautiful she is. You tell her what you love about her body. And I'm specific in saying what you love because her body might not be perfect. And you can focus on all the imperfections and that's all that you'll see, which is what your wife does. But you can focus on the things that you do love. And that can be what you see because what we focus on expands or it magnifies and that's what we see, right? And so when she's not triggered or saying those things about herself, can you get ahead of the situation and begin to share the things that you love about her? Now, wives, if you're watching this video, do not discount it if your husband starts to do this. If he starts to make changes in these areas, and then you're like, oh, well, you're just doing it because you listened in the video and you don't give him credit for it, you will create a husband that feels like he cannot win and he won't want to show up anymore because he doesn't do it and he doesn't get credit, and then he does do it and then he doesn't get credit. How can he win? So wives, if you're watching this, make sure you're creating an environment where you're allowing him to win and you're allowing him to show up in new ways and you appreciate it, and vice versa, right? So guys, next point is women are up and down, right? Do you allow your wife to go through the flow? Like, she has hormones, and I'm telling you, like, Eve's curse is real. Like, hormones are not cool and not fun because just rage wants to come out of me some days. And men don't have that as often. And so it's this foreign thing. Like, Skylar's the same pretty much every single day, right? I am not, on the other hand. I change. I mean, not like, it actually isn't like this, right? There's a little boop, right? But Skylar used to get all frustrated when those times happen and resist it. And so now, like, he can be here, and he used to go on the ride with me, right? He used to go through the waves. And now what he's done is he's become so solid in who he is, where he can be like this, and I can be going like this around him, and it doesn't affect him. And he doesn't attach onto that stuff or doesn't love me less when I'm having a hard time. He just loves me through it and sees like, man, she must be going through something, right? She must be struggling in some area. And he sees it as an opportunity for him to show up, not as an indication to pull away or punish me for anything or withdraw from me. He doesn't attach on to the differences, right? And so if your wife is a stay-at-home mom, husbands, and is just with the kids all day and hasn't done a great job about community. One, I'd love to see her at Rise Up Queen so she can have community. But two, she's gonna want to talk to you when you come home. And so can you prepare yourself before you get home? Maybe it means taking 5 or 10 minutes in the car, listening to music, getting grounded, meditating, clearing your head. Can you be present with her when you get home? Because she's raising your children, right? Her job might be harder than your job, and she's exhausted at the end of it. And all she wants is connection with an adult. And that adult's you. You is who she wants to connect with. So can you put yourself in a space to be able to connect with her? And when your wife says, "How was your day?" and you just say, "Good," why that answer doesn't work is because "How was your day?" is her intro to, "Hey, I want to know about you. I'm married to this person. I'd love to know what's going on in your world." And so some husbands say, "Well, when she asks me that, I don't want to tell her all the bad things that are happening and everything that I'm stressed out about. I don't want to go through all that again. I did that at work. Why do it at home too?" And I tell them that that's not what she's asking you to do. You could share a bunch of wins that you're having at work, right? If you don't want to go through the hard stuff again. Or if you're willing, you can let her into some of the hard stuff if she can handle it. But what she's asking for is everyday connection with you, which often, in another video I've said, leads to intimate connection. And so can you show up for her in the everyday and share a couple good things that are going on, or a couple things that you're working on, or a couple areas you're growing in? It will go miles in her feeling connected to you, but it's often the thing that men resist the most. So if you have another friend, husband that needs this video, definitely shoot that his way. And I would challenge you to talk to your wife about an area that you can improve based on this video. So if you're not subscribed, definitely hit subscribe and follow for more videos on marriage, intimacy, fun, playfulness, all kinds of great stuff. So see you soon.